GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC. ARRL NTS Net monthly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC. W5FC.
Good evening, everyone. This is Virginia in D5S. We will be starting Skynet in about 5 minutes. So if you need to use the repeater for anything before then, please do so now. And like I said, the net will start at about 9 o'clock in D5S.
Dallas races net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
welcome to Skynet. This is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's Skynet announcement and click on the hot link right below the announcement headline to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air. And don't worry, if you want to check in the old-fashioned way via the air or Echolink, we'll continue to do that too. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. First of all, general announcements. Second, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, What's Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next few days, and astronomical Q&A and a 73 round if time permits. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via the w5fc.org website. So far we have KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi, KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat in rainy Mesquite, NV5F, Virginia, that's me, somewhere near the Star Tauceti. N5BB, Bill in Irving. NT5TM, Tony in Bird City. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. N5LIG, Dale in Dallas. And, let's see, KI5PGM, Travis in McKinney. And AC9SG, Antonio in Dallas. Now let's start with voice check-ins, starting with short-time check-ins. If you are a short-time check-in for Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, next we'll take general check-ins. If you are over-the-air RF check-in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location for Skynet.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, Northeast Dallas.
Okay, so far we've got K5JDW, John in Coppell, K5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, KG5WVL, James in Carrollton, and W5GUS in Dallas. So thanks to everyone for checking in over the airwaves tonight. And next we have Echolink check-ins. I am looking at Echolink at the moment. It looks like we have possible people who might like to check in there. If you would like to check in over Echolink, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, I'm looking on Echolink right now, and it looks like everybody there is checked in either via RF or the internet. So looking good for check-ins. All right, next, open to all check-ins. Anyone, anywhere, any mode, want to check into Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is your net control for Skynet, Virginia, NV5F.
Victor Bravo Whiskey, South Garland.
Okay, the last station, your signal was crackly and kind of intermittent, and I got something 5, Victor Bravo Whiskey, and then I didn't get your name or your location, so if you could try to improve your transmitting situation and repeat your check-in, please.
November 5, Victor Bravo Whiskey, South Garland. Name is Charlie.
Okay, I got N5, Victor Bravo Whiskey, I got Charlie, and did you say you're in Garland, is that correct?
That is correct. South Garland.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. We appreciate you checking in here on Skynet. Okay, that's a good bunch of check-ins. It's a little quiet, but it's Valentine's Day, so maybe people are out and about. All right, let's get started. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now with your announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, NT5TM, go ahead with your announcements.
Thank you, Virginia. Our Afterglow movie discussion tonight will focus on Spaceways, a colorized British science fiction movie from 1953.
It's free on YouTube, and it's only just over an hour long. Despite that, they still run out of film while making the movie and had to end it rather abruptly. Personally, I'd listen to Skynet, but hey, you have time to watch the movie if you prefer. We'll talk about that at 10:30 or 10:35 or so tonight. It's just 2 weeks to go until the big DARC battery build. Check out more information about our February 28th lecture and lab at W5FC.org. And there will be plenty of ham activity going on tomorrow, too. The DARC meeting on the air is tomorrow on this repeater at 7. The Racy's Trading Net is tomorrow right here at 8. And the White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club Fox Hunt will be around, you guessed it, the shores of White Rock Lake from 9 a.m. to about 5 p.m. tomorrow. Check out WA5WRL for more information about the Fox Hunt, or if you get out there and you're stuck, call the club on 147.520 simplex. Back to Nut. Thank you for listening. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. We appreciate your announcements every week. All right, I have a couple of announcements that are our normal net ones. One of them is the AMSAT net. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed to check into this net, and you need to be registered. You can find the net under Groups and *AMSAT*. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There are also 2 local nets available in Dallas. Both these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others who are checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone 110.9. On Tuesdays, Tom in 5HYP is our usual net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East net that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9. All right. The DARC has a variety of nets all week long, including the Night of Nets, which is tonight. And those nets can be found on the website. There is a tab that you can click on. March Nets, you can find the very thickly populated net schedule and find out where and when to get on the radio. Let's see. Now it's time for, speaking of nets, tonight is the Night of Nets. We're on Skynet. Earlier we had TechNet. And after this, for all the crazy people who like to stay up late, we have the Afterglow movie net. So it's time for tonight's Afterglow info. Now, Tony gave you the sort of sane version of tonight's info, but the more accurate synopsis of it usually is given by Tom. He's the sort of de facto leader of Afterglow. And let's see, Tom, are you there with tonight's Afterglow info?
Here to give you information on tonight's net, above and beyond what you got from Tony earlier. And I will begin now. The director stared. Try that again. The director stared at the script quizzically. He turned it upside down and then set it on the table, slid it sideways, and watched as it fell to the floor. Gravity check, he said in his most British voice possible. The rest of the production crew stared back, wondering what he would say next. Then he did say something next. Pop, Joey Good. This script follows the law of physics. By Joe, it's gonna be proper mint. He explained in whatever language he was speaking. I think we've got a cracking film on our hands. The script is a tad light when it comes to the story, but the kiddies are going to be buzzing about the rocket ship and the dead-ons and all the action. Others were confused by what he said, but he continued anyhow. So now we've got to add a team for the romance, find a top-tier toonsmith, and make sure everyone's driving on the left side of the road. It's going to be a proper madness dam. People started backing out of the room. The director started singing Rule Britannia. Join us for the first, and maybe last, British science fiction movie of the 1950s, or as the director would say, get yourself down for another space-age film from the UK featuring blokes with a right broad accent. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m., if you dare. And if you haven't seen it, that's okay, because we question people who, well, we question them and we question them for not having seen the movie and having seen the movie. But you'll be a part of the discussion no matter what, whether you saw the film or not. It's Spaceways from 1953. Back to you, Virginia. Tip, tip, hop, tip, tip, tally ho.
Okay, yes, all are welcome on Afterglow. We don't mind if you haven't seen the movie. Now, for some reason, this is the second time we've seen this movie in the last, 2 or 3 years, and I'm not sure why. So maybe we could talk about that tonight. All right, you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. We currently have the following people added to our check-ins via the website. You see? We do. We have WSKQ298 Lamar from East Dallas. That is a very odd call sign. So, Lamar, I'm not sure what that is, but hey, it's legal. You're not checking in over the air with that, so I'm not sure what that is. Okay. I'm reading that wrong. No, it says WSKQ298. All right. Okay, and are there any additional check-ins for RF or Echolink? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard for check-ins. Next we will have Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, starring Chaz, KF5JHA. Take it away, Chaz.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Virginia. I just want to welcome some people that might be over on our YouTube version of Skynet. Yep, we have a video version on YouTube. To get to that, go to W5FC.org and click on the link. So anyway, slide is already up on YouTube. So on February the 27th is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting is going to be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. It's also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Donald Ficken. His topic is going to be the Library Telescope Program. Now, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in this area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. I was planning on being at that tonight. On the second Saturday of the month, the stargazing is held at Frisco. Again, I was planning on being there tonight, but tonight's stargazing was canceled due to clouds and rain. Check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JJ, back to our net control, Virginia. It's back to you.
Okay, thanks, Chaz. You know, one of these weeks, one of these times, we're going to have somebody actually reporting from the star watching thing. You planned on it. Maybe next time. All right. Next we have National Space Society events and activities with Bill, N5EB. So, Bill, please let us know what's up with NSS North Texas.
Well, thank you, Virginia. This is N5DB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. You can reach me via email at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local NSS National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. The speaker at our February meeting, which was last Sunday, was Min Win of Exorbita, a Dallas-based company which will detect sub-centimeter space debris in real time using sensors mounted on spacecraft. Min Win is still in high school. He has a adult partner in his company, but he's still in high school, so he gave a very good presentation. Our chapter March meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, March the 8th. By the way, the launch of the Artemis II mission with humans going around the moon for the first time in cislunar area since the 1970s was supposed to be a week ago, but now it'll be no earlier than March the 6th. So we might have that launch on the same day as our meeting in March the 8th. Our local National Space Society chapter is sponsoring space-related special award prizes at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair. This event's at Fair Park in Dallas on Saturday, February 28th. I will be there. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. We usually have 8 to 10 people at these meetings. Sometimes there's fewer, but usually it's something around 8 or 10. The next Space Rendezvous social event will be held on Friday, February 27th. It's always the last Friday evening of the month at 6 p.m. at Cheddar's Restaurant in North Irving. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference. This is ISDC. ISDC 2026 will be held in Tysons Corner, Virginia, which is not far from Washington, D.C. The dates are June 4th to 7th of this year, and I'll be there also. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5DB, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. That's all I got. Back to you, Virginia. This is N5DB.
N5DB, thank you. This is NV5S, Virginia, your net control for this evening's Skynet. Before I get into the discussion topic of the evening, do we have any more check-ins for Skynet? Please come now. Call sign, name, and location.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
All right, I copy N5OF, Clay and Mesquite. Thanks for checking in. All right, and since I'm net control, it falls to me to bring you a discussion topic this evening. My topic is called Dangerous Asteroids and a Dark Matter Report. Next month, I promise you a very cool discussion on the science behind one of today's popular science fiction novels. Hint, it's also about to be a really big, cool movie that I can't wait to see. This month, however, I will be giving a heads up about asteroids and also honoring one of our own with a dark matter update. So I have a long article and then I have a shorter one at the end. So first I have, can a nonprofit help protect Earth from dangerous asteroids? How the B612 Foundation has taken on the challenge. This article is by Leonard David, and it was published in Space.com. So here we go. It's a cosmic roll of the dice. A major asteroid strike could cause widespread devastation and profoundly impact life on Earth. So thwarting an incoming object could be a matter of life or death. Luckily, we have a little bit of practice at this. On September 26, 2022, NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, DARC, slammed into Dimorphos, a moonlet that orbits a larger asteroid called Didymos. DART was the first ever mission dedicated to a trial run one method of asteroid deflection by changing an object's motion in space through kinetic impact. The outlook of Earth being on the receiving end of a menacing asteroid in the future is real, and when the high-stakes card is dealt, responding to a hostile near-Earth object, NEO, is a global challenge. Promoting protection. Enter the heads-up and off-world reality of the nonprofit B612 Foundation, which takes its name from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's 1943 novella, The Little Prince. The prince lives on an asteroid called B612. Since 2002, the Silicon Valley-based organization has engaged in research, education, and promoting the protection of Earth from asteroid impacts, and also advancing knowledge about the solar system's evolution and expanding economic development in space. Danica Remy is president of B612 and a co-founder of Asteroid Day, an international day of action and education about asteroids held every year on June 30th. The idea behind Asteroid Day was that the public needed to be educated about both the risks as well as the aspirational opportunities that asteroids present to humanity, Remy told Space.com. Public communications. Modeled after Earth Day, Asteroid Day is an important part of B612's worldwide public communication strategy, said Remy, a way to elevate trusted voices and spokespersons about both the risk and the opportunities that asteroids present. In some ways, you still need a human network, she added. That's because we actually don't know what trust looks like in this time of internet communications and artificial intelligence generation. Asteroid Day was co-founded by astrophysicist and musician Brian May of the rock band Queen, along with Apollo 9 astronaut Rusty Schweickart, filmmaker Grig Richters, and Remy. The day is recognized by the United Nations with hundreds of events held to sharpen public appreciation of asteroids. Multidimensional work. Schweickart co-founded B612 and led it for its first 10 years. He was also instrumental in persuading Remy to join forces with former NASA astronaut Ed Lu in leading the effort. I convinced her that the planetary defense challenge, while having substantial technical challenges, was far broader than that, Schweickart told Space.com. In fact, when the rubber hits the road regarding an impact threat, the major issues and decisions were largely non-technical. Remy's efforts and talent in management, fundraising, and organizational leadership have enabled the multidimensional work of B612 to grow and become a highly productive planetary defense asset for the world, Schweickart said. 2 real-world impacts. Asteroid Day spotlights the anniversary of the 1908 Tunguska impact in Siberia, the largest asteroid hit on Earth in recorded history. That major wallop shattered roughly 800 square miles of forest, the approximate size of a major metropolitan city today. A more recent Earth encounter with an asteroid occurred in February 2013 over the Russian town of Chelyabinsk. An asteroid that was about 60 feet wide detonated above the city, an unexpected sky show that damaged buildings and injured a large number of people on the ground. Asteroids don't have a particular animus for Russia. The nation just covers a huge territory, so it has a relatively high chance of being hit. It was a 21st century wake-up call and also rang the bell to emphasize the range of B612 activities. A techno-optimist. My background is in the area of computer science, said Remy, who spearheads the organization's strategy and operations. She has an enviable track record of leading startups and nonprofits across diverse fields, including technology, internet services, education, and philanthropy. I am a techno-optimist and really believe that technology can solve problems, Remy said. But she added, it will make a lot of problems, too, if we don't think well about the potential problems. Remy says that the asteroid challenge is a data challenge. We simply don't know where the majority of them are, and we have the technology, she said. In order to find and track them, we need to deploy those technologies or invest in those technology solutions to accelerate the rate of asteroid discovery. For example, the Asteroid Institute, a program of the B612 group, is working on a way to utilize the latest advances in computing and astronomy to build open tools, easily accessible ways to understand, map, and navigate our solar system. The Asteroid Discovery Analysis and Mapping ATOM platform is a case in point. Built on Google Cloud, it combines curated data sets, 8.6 billion point sources, and cloud-based services to create the infrastructure for discovery, analysis, and mission design. Independent voices. ATOM is an open-source tool that handles impact, probability, trajectory optimization, and real-time discovery in one easily accessible interface, Remy said. The tools we are building are open source, so people can download and use the tools. They are an important part of the transparency in this world of a lot of information from a lot of different places, she said. We think that there should be an independent voice. We think that other people around the world are capable of doing some of this analysis for themselves. It is important that computer and software-savvy individuals validate data about where an asteroid is and where it is traveling, making them credible sources of information, Remy said. Discovery pipeline. By making tools and information available, we think the world is better off having researchers, explorers, and planetary defenders. Remy added, people can be enabled to begin that exploration process for themselves, independent of an agency or an academic institution. Lou is the executive director of the Asteroid Institute. In last year's Institute Progress Report, he emphasized the ground-based Vera Rubin Observatory's capabilities as the most powerful facility for asteroid discovery ever built. Lou said that scientists will use ATOM with Rubin observations to identify and assess potential threats. The Institute is eager to apply its trackless heliospheric orbit recovery, THOR, algorithm to expand the number of asteroids Rubin will uncover, he added. THOR was developed by Joachim Moyens at the University of Washington and the B612 Asteroid Institute. It can discover asteroids in datasets regardless of observational cadence by linking observations across time spans. The algorithm is being integrated into ATOM's discovery pipeline. Democratize access to data. Remy thinks that public attention to space rocks will be heightened by April 13th, 2029 flyby of Earth by the asteroid Apophis, named after the Egyptian god of chaos. Apophis is a great story, and luckily it doesn't have our address on it, she said, and it's a really exciting adventure for all humanity. A growing cadre of national and international spacecraft missions will collect critical Apophis data for the current and future use. The community is going to have access to that data. That's why I think it's so important that we democratize access to data, especially for science, said Remy. Our planetary future. Similarly, there's another space rock lurking out there to keep an alert eye on, asteroid 2024 YR4. Astronomers initially thought 2024 YR4 might be a troublemaker for Earth, but that prospect has dissipated. On the other hand, the asteroid may slam into Earth's moon on December 22nd, 2032. Experts give 2024 YR4 a 4% chance of striking our celestial neighbor on that date. But remember, that means there's a 96% chance that it won't hit, Remy said. Still, such a hit would be an amazing show through a telescope, she said, perhaps causing meteor showers here on Earth. While the B612 DNA was in planetary defense, our future and all of our investments for the last 6 years have been in mapping our solar system, not only for planetary defense, but also for mission planning, for visiting asteroids, and for discovery, Remy concluded. The tools we are building are about our planetary future. And this is Virginia in V5F. I'm your net control for Skynet this evening. And we have one more shorter piece here, and I am bringing this in honor of Brenda McGee, WB5OZL, now a silent key, and she always liked to bring what I started to call the weekly dark matter report, because a lot of her astronomical discovery reports had dark matter involved. And I found this one, and it looks good. So, in honor of Brenda, here goes. Could the Milky Way galaxy's supermassive black hole actually be a clump of dark matter? This is by Robert Lee, report published on space.com. New research suggests that the supermassive black hole at the heart of the Milky Way is actually a tremendously massive yet compact clump of dark matter. Scientists say this clump would exert the same gravitational effects currently attributed to the Milky Way's massive black hole, Sagittarius A. That includes the violent and rapid dance of stars taking place at the galactic center, in which so-called S-stars race around the compact heart of our galaxy at speeds as great as 67 million miles per hour. That's around 10% the speed of light. This dark matter clump, the team says, would also account for the orbits of the dust-shrouded bodies, or G-sources, located in the galactic center. However, this substitution of a black hole for dark matter only works if dark matter is composed of ultra-light particles that are part of the fermion family. This would grant the dense cluster at the heart of the galaxy the ability to form a cosmic structure that matches those observed characteristics of the galactic center. Fermionic dark matter is proposed to be capable of forming a structure that consists of super-dense compact core with so much mass that it mimics a supermassive black hole with a mass equivalent to 4.6 million suns. The research team says the core would be surrounded by a vast and diffuse halo stretching out far beyond the visible matter of the Milky Way, but acting as a single unified entity. This is a structure that other recipes of dark matter can't replicate. We're not just replacing the black hole with a dark object, we're proposing that the supermassive central object in the galaxy's dark matter halo are two manifestations of the same continuous substance. Team member Carlos Arguelles of the Institute of Astrophysics at La Plata said in a statement, "Seeing is believing, but what are we seeing?" The theory proposed by Arguelles and colleagues is strongly based on observations conducted by the European Space Agency's star tracking mission Gaia, released as part of the project's third data drop in June 2022. Gaia allowed the team to precisely map the rotation and orbit of stars and gas in the outer halo of the Milky Way, revealing a slowdown of our galaxy's rotation curve, the so-called Keplerian decline. This team thinks the Keplerian decline can be explained by the diffuse outer halo they saw, which is a factor in their model, and one that, as we now know, adds support to the fermionic model of dark matter. In the Standard Model of Cosmology, also known as the Lambda Cold Dark Matter, LCDM model, the best description we have of the universe, dark matter is cold, which means its particles move at speeds significantly slower than the speed of light. Cold dark matter forms an extended halo trail that suggests to account for the slowdown observed by Gaia. The fermionic model, on the other hand, predicts a tighter and more compact halo tail that could cause Keplerian decline. Remember, in the Sagittarius A model, dark matter at the heart of the Milky Way galaxy isn't connected in a single structure to the outer halo. Thus, that tail isn't present in this model. This is the first time a dark matter model has successfully bridged these vastly different scales and various object orbits, including modern rotation, curve, and central stars data, Arguelles said. So far, so good. The theory that our galaxy may have a clump of dark matter rather than a black hole in its center appears to be fairly credible. However, there is a 4.6 million solar mass elephant in the room, namely the image of Sagittarius A captured by Event Horizon Telescope, EHT, and revealed to the public in May 2022. Still, the team says their fermion dark matter model can account for this. Before diving into that explanation, it is worth considering what we actually see when we look at the EHT image of what we are currently assumed to be Sagittarius A. The glowing golden ring in this image is actually super hot matter whipping around whatever lurks at the heart of the Milky Way. What we actually see in this image isn't a black hole at all. Understandable, because the black holes are surrounded by a light-trapping surface called an event horizon. There's no way we could directly see Sagittarius A. What we can see, though, is the shadow of the black hole cast. Yet in 2024, researchers demonstrated that a dense core of fermionic dark matter can actually cast a shadow that is similar to that seen in the EHT image. The core would be invisible like a black hole because dark matter famously doesn't interact with light. This is a pivotal point, said the team leader, Valentina Crespi of the Institute of Astrophysics, La Plata. Our model not only explains the orbits of stars and the galaxy's rotation, but it is also consistent with the black hole shadow image. The dense dark matter core can mimic the shadow because it bends light so strongly, creating a central darkness surrounded by a bright ring. So the team has statistically compared their dark matter model to the accepted model of a supermassive black hole at the heart of the Milky Way, and the former was able to replicate the behavior of S-stars, G-sources, the structure of our galaxy, and the black hole shadow. The researchers emphasize it is definitely still early days for this theory. The team's research does lay down a roadmap for future observations using the Very Large Telescope, VLT, to hunt for photon rings at the heart of the Milky Way, which will be present for Sagittarius A, but absent if the central dominating body of our galaxy is a dense clump of dark matter. Clearly, Sagittarius A isn't ready to relinquish its throne at the heart of the Milky Way to dark matter just yet. The team's research was published on February 5th in the journal Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. Okay, so that concludes our topics for discussion this evening. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign. Okay, well, this is Virginia in D5F, net control for this evening's Skynet, and now it's time for What's Up with Chaz. KF5, JHA, it's all yours, Chaz.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, this is Chaz. Virginia, I just want to let you know, thanks about the asteroid information. Starting in 2007, Breakhaven campus of Dallas College participated in looking for asteroids, and we found about half a dozen of them that had never been discovered before. It's out of a program from Hardin-Simmons University, and it's for college and high school students to try to find asteroids. It's a unique program. Anyway, we're on What Is Up? Slide Master, slide number 2. Once again, we've got a video version of Skynet. That's over on YouTube. Go to W5FC.org. Click on the link, and you're on YouTube version. And you'll see a picture of me right now. This segment is called Was Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude. I just checked a few minutes ago, which is much too faint to be able to see with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year and a half ago. One recent prediction was for it to go nova on November the 10th, 2025. That did not happen. So another prediction is on June 25th of this year, give or take a few days. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light polluted location in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. The sun has been very active, and this image of the sun was taken on February the 12th from the website spaceweather.com. Oh, by the way, if you want to find out about the asteroids that have come closer to us than the moon, 2 of them over the last week, go to spaceweather.com. Yep, asteroids have come closer to us than the moon. 2 of them just this past week. On average, 1 every week does that. They're all small, maybe a few meters across. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are still large at times that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I presented information on the solar cycle just a couple of months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. The 3rd quarter moon phase was on February the 9th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. New moon is on February 17th, just in a few days. The 1st quarter phase of the moon will be on February the 24th. Also on February 24th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 370,135 kilometers. Full moon is on March the 3rd. We'll talk more about what's going on March the 3rd in just a few minutes. On March the 10th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,385 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6. The moon occults the planet Mercury on February the 18th. An occultation is when the moon moves in between the Earth and the more distant object like a planet or a star. Mercury will disappear behind the moon at 6:44 p.m. This is on February the 18th, and reappear around 7:17 p.m. Now, these times for the event are Brookhaven campus at Dallas College. Times will vary for other locations. Now, a pair of binoculars or a telescope will enhance your view of the event. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. On February the 19th, in the early evening sky, there's going to be a conjunction of the moon and the planet Saturn and Neptune. Now, Neptune, you're going to need a telescope to observe. Nope, can't do it with just a pair of binoculars, need a telescope. Slide Master, slide number 8. The minor planet Ceres and the moon will be in conjunction in the evening sky on February the 20th. Once again, you'll need a pair of binoculars to see Ceres in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 9. On February the 23rd, there will be a conjunction of the moon, the planet Uranus, and the Pleiades in the western evening sky. And once again, you'll need a pair of binoculars to see the planet Uranus. Don't need a telescope. I've seen it with binoculars before, so you can do that too. Slide Master, slide number 10. On February the 26th, the moon and Jupiter are in conjunction in the evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 11. Early in the evening on February the 27th, low in the western sky, Venus and Mercury are in conjunction, and they're only about 4 degrees away from each other. Now, a pair of binoculars will help in spotting them in the evening twilight. Slide Master, slide number 12. The moon and the bright star Regulus are in conjunction in the western morning sky on March the 2nd. And slide Master, slide number 13, we're going to talk about what's going on March the 3rd. So a lunar eclipse occurs when the moon moves in the shadow of the Earth. Most of the time the moon moves just above or below the Earth's shadow as it orbits, but a couple of times a year, the moon travels into the Earth's shadow. There's a lighter part of the Earth's shadow called the penumbra, and a darker part of the Earth's shadow called the umbra. When the moon completely moves into the darker part of the Earth's shadow, the umbra, we have what's called a total lunar eclipse. The eclipse on March the 3rd, 2026, that's just in about 3 weeks, is a total lunar eclipse. The last total lunar eclipse visible in the Dallas area was on March the 13th and 14th of 2025, just last year. The next total lunar eclipse won't be available for us to see here in Dallas until June the 26th of 2029. Here are the details of the March 3rd total lunar eclipse. So the moon will enter the penumbra, that's the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, at 2:44 a.m. Central Standard Time. It's difficult to notice that part of the eclipse because it's the lighter part of the Earth's shadow. The moon enters the umbra, the darker part of the Earth's shadow, at 3:50 a.m. That's when the eclipse really becomes visible. All you need is just your 2 eyes, but a pair of binoculars or even a telescope makes it look even better. Totality, when the moon's completely into the Earth's shadow, the darker part of the Earth's shadow, begins at 5:09 a.m. The middle part of the eclipse, when the moon is as far in as it will be into the umbra, is at 5:35. That's the maximum eclipse. Totality ends when the moon starts moving out of the umbra at 6:03 a.m. We call that the end of totality. Moon leaves the umbra at 7:17. The moon leaves the penumbra at 8:23 a.m. and the eclipse ends. Now, the moon sets around 6:56 Central Standard Time here in the Dallas Metroplex, so the last part of the eclipse will not be visible here in North Texas. But North Texas will see most of the eclipse if the weather is clear, and I hope it is. We have partly cloudy skies for the eclipse in 2025, but I did get some good pics. In fact, if you're on the YouTube version, the picture behind the information is one that I took during the eclipse. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 14. Now, maybe some of you out there in Radio Land have a question, or maybe you need a fill on some of the information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. My degree is in astrophysics, so maybe I can help you out, or maybe someone else on the net could help you out. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
Kilo 5 Delta Charlie Mike.
Delta Charlie Mike, please, what's your question and the need for more information?
Yes, thank you. I was curious, you mentioned earlier that we wouldn't know when we were at solar maximum until maybe until afterwards. Could you talk about the measurements and the indicators that we have that it has gone past us? What are the indicators that the real pros look for?
Great question. Solar maximum happens about, on average, around every 11 years, and we usually count the number of sunspots. That's the number of active regions on the sun that's facing toward us. And it varies a little bit, so we don't know exactly when it happens until after it happens, because then we can see it decline. So that's when we find out when the solar maximum happens, is after it happens. Does that answer your question?
It does. One final, and I'll hang up and listen, as they used to say on the old talk radio shows. But what order is it? In order of magnitude, fewer sunspots, or half, or over a certain period of time? How does that work? As a non-scientist, I'm sure you can answer better than the question I'm asking. But just how many fewer sunspots over what period of time indicates that, and I'll be clear after this. This is K5DCM. Thanks for taking my questions.
Well, thank you for your question. We've actually had an entire segment on Skynet about the solar cycle, but let me tell you that the 11-year cycle has a peak every 11 years, but it also has a trough every 11 years, and there are times, sometimes several years, when there's no sunspots. So that's the solar minimum. And so after we get to the maximum, a few years later, we're at a solar minimum. Then a few years later, we're back up to the solar maximum. So ham radio operators are really interested in this because really, during solar maximum, we have good times and bad times. When there's really active times on the sun, we might not be able to have very good transmissions on HF, shortwave. But there's also times when the ionosphere is energized enough where we could actually have better transmissions. But during solar cycle minimums, the ionosphere might not be energized very much, and we might not be able to bounce our signals off the ionosphere. So that's a great question. We'll follow up with that on future Skynet with an entire segment on that. So, all right. Thank you for your question. Slide Master, slide number 15. So as the moon wanes right now, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ Chaz, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Skynet is also available on Echolink and YouTube. So back to our net control, Virginia, it's yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Chaz. And I also have K5DCM checked in. Would you like to come back to me with your name and location?
Yes, thanks. K5DCM here. My name is Dave, and I live in San Angelo, Texas, here visiting family in Irving, and using my friend's ham station, actually. I say family, best friend growing up, and he got his call sign over the summer. So congratulations to WJ5BPG on putting together a station. And I'm just sitting in his garage and listening to your program. So thanks so much. This is K5DCM. Dave, back to you.
Okay, K5DCM, Dave, thank you so much. I've got you in Irving, and appreciate you checking in and asking a question. And we're glad you're here on Skynet. Check in anytime you're around on a Saturday night. We also have an Echolink for this repeater if you want to listen from home. And check in from there. Thanks so much. Do I have any more check-ins for Skynet? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
Okay, I got WB4 MFI Ted in Dallas. Thank you for checking in. It's not Skynet without you. Appreciate it. All right, next we have space exploration and space history with Gus, W5GUS. Bring us some space exploration, please.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. This is W5GUS here with, we'll start with some space exploration news. Space scientists are absolutely ecstatic after the James Webb Space Telescope detected water vapor in the atmosphere of exoplanet Kepler 186f Foxtrot this past Monday. This Earth-sized planet, located in the habitable zone of its star, is now a prime target in the search for extraterrestrial life. The presence of water vapor is a significant finding, though further observations are needed to determine if liquid water exists on the surface. This discovery marks a major milestone in our ability to characterize potentially habitable worlds beyond our solar system. And this one is well beyond our solar system. It's only 580 light years from us. Okay, and SpaceX, last Tuesday, the 10th, SpaceX successfully completed a full-duration static fire test of its new Raptor 3 engine at their Starbase facility in Texas. This more powerful and efficient engine is critical for the upcoming flights of the Starship rocket, designed for missions to the Moon and Mars. The test demonstrated the engine's ability to generate the required thrust and performance, paving the way for the first orbital flight of a Starship equipped with Raptor 3 engines scheduled for later this year. Okay, this past Wednesday, NASA announced a delay for the Artemis 3 mission, which was planned to be the first crewed lunar landing in over 50 years. The delay is attributed to ongoing challenges in the development of the new spacesuits required for the mission. Ensuring the safety and functionality of the spacesuits is paramount, and NASA is taking extra time to address the technical issues. The mission is now tentatively scheduled for early 2027, I guess about a year from now. Okay, as mentioned a little earlier, a small near-Earth asteroid designated 2026FE 2026 Foxtrot Echo made its closest approach to Earth February 12th, passing a safe distance of approximately 1 million miles. The asteroid, estimated to be around 20 meters in diameter, posed no threat to our planet. This event provided an excellent opportunity for astronomers to test their tracking and characterization capabilities, contributing to our planetary defense efforts. Okay, and yesterday, Friday, China National Space Administration successfully landed its Chang'e 7 robotic mission on the south pole of the moon. The mission, consisting of an orbiter, a lander, a rover, and a mini-hopping probe, will explore the region for water, ice, and other resources. This ambitious mission is a significant step in China's lunar exploration program and its plans for a future crewed lunar research station there on the South Pole. Okay, also yesterday, a crew of 4 astronauts destined for the International Space Station lifted off before dawn from Florida. The request to send a new crew to the ISS for a likely 8 or 9 month stint in orbit was expedited to help fill vacancies left due to NASA's first medical evacuation last month. The 4 astronauts on their way to orbit will bring the ISS back to full staff. That's a Crew 12 comprises America's Jessica Meir, Jack Hathaway, France's Sophie Adenau, and Russia's Andrea Fedyev. They will join 3 other astronauts who kept the space station running this past month. All right, there's only a couple of space-related birthdays this week. First up is on February 9th, 1960, Peggy Whitston, who was a ham. She's got a ham license, Kilo Charlie 5, Zulu Tango Delta, KC5ZTD. She was the first female commander of the International Space Station and holds the record for the most time spent in space by any American astronaut. All right, and the only other birthday for this week, February 10th, Garrett Reisman. He flew on 2 space shuttle missions and was a long-duration crew member on the International Space Station. Okay, we'll move to space history. February 8th, 1974. The final crew of the Skylab space station, Skylab 4, splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. The 3-man crew of Gerald Carr, Edward Gibson, and William Pogue completed a record-breaking 84-day mission. During their time in orbit, they conducted numerous experiments and observations of the Earth and Sun. The Skylab program was a crucial step in understanding the challenges of long-duration spaceflight. This mission concluded the first American space station program. Okay, February 11th, 1970, Japan became the 4th nation to independently launch a satellite into orbit with the successful launch of Osumi. This achievement was a major milestone for Japan's space program, which had been developing its own launch vehicle technology. The satellite was launched on a Lambda 4S5 rocket from the Space Center. Although the satellite's transmission was short-lived, it marked Japan's entry into the space age. The successful launch was an accumulation of years of research and development. Okay, on February 12th, 1984, astronaut Bruce McCandless made history by performing the first ever untethered spacewalk during the STS-41B mission of Space Shuttle Challenger. Using the Manned Maneuvering Unit, the MMU, a nitrogen-propelled backpack, he floated freely in space, untethered to the shuttle. This remarkable and very dangerous achievement demonstrated the potential for astronauts to work more freely and effectively in space. The MMU was a significant technological advancement that opened up new possibilities for satellite repair and construction. McCandless's iconic image, which was a tiny human figure against the backdrop of Earth, became a symbol of human exploration. You might remember that image. Okay, and the last item in this segment is the Voyager 1 spacecraft, from a distance of about 6 billion kilometers, turned its camera back toward the sun on its way out of our solar system and took a series of images of the solar system. One of these images, a faint speck in a scattered ray of sunlight, was Earth. This iconic image, dubbed the pale blue dot, was a humbling reminder of our planet's place in the vastness of the cosmos and the universe. The image was taken at the request of astronomer Carl Sagan, who wanted to show humanity's place in the universe. It has since become a powerful symbol of our shared home and the need to protect it and help it survive. And that is the last item in this week, so we will pass it back to Net Control. Back to you, Virginia, W5GUS.
Okay, thank you, Gus. Appreciate all the good history and information. Next we have Chaz again, KF5JHA, with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week.
Thank you, Virginia. This is Chaz, KF5JHA, Slide Master, slide number, I believe it's 16. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named after Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. There are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Lepus the Hare. Wow, Lepus the Hare is an ancient constellation. It is considered to be the prey of Orion the Hunter and his two hunting dogs, Canis Major and Canis Minor, that are pursuing it in the sky. Lepus is just underneath the constellation of Orion in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 17, the jokes of the week. Now, those of you that are not familiar with Skynet, I put jokes in here that are related to the constellation, so you're welcome to Boorhead. If you're over on Echolink, you can put in the chat session what you think of them. Or if you're over on YouTube, you can put those also in the comment section. What do rabbits say before they eat? Let us pray. Get it? Let us pray. What's the difference between a healthy rabbit and an odd rabbit? One's a bit bunny, the other is a bit funny. I had to practice that one. What airline do English rabbits use? British Airways. What do you call 100 rabbits walking backwards? A receding hairline. What time of math do the rabbits are the best at? Oh, come on, that's an easy one. That would be multiplication. And the last one in this segment, the last joke of this segment, how many magicians does it take to pull a rabbit out of the hat? Just one. It's a trick question. Slide Master, slide number 18, please. Gamma Leporis is an easy-to-split double star. It can be seen as a double star even in low-power telescopes at 40 power. Burnham's Celestial Handbook calls the pair of stars an easy and appealing object for even the smallest telescopes. Some sources say that Gamma Leporis can even be split with binoculars, earning it a position in the Astronomical League Binocular Double Star Club. I'll need to try that sometime. I've never tried that. In an 8-inch telescope, the primary star looks white, and the yellow one, the other one is a yellow-white companion. Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that the star's proper motion through space closely matches that of Sirius, our brightest star in the sky, other than the sun. So perhaps Orion's great hunting dog really is pursuing the hare through the sky. That would be funny. Another star, Heinz Crimson Star, R. Leporis, quoting from the Constellation of the Month article in the TASS Spectrum newsletter, Heinz Crimson Star is a carbon star. Such stars have a high amount of carbon in them. The carbon removes a little bit of the blue light that radiates from such stars, so the stars shine with a deep red color. The star appears to be very red in an 8-inch telescope, although it was not seen as red as Herschel's Garnet star in Cepheus. Heinz star appeared to be more orange. Unfortunately, when Lepus was well placed for viewing, the southern portion of Cepheus is very low in the northern horizon, so it's difficult to do a side-by-side comparison of these two stars. Heinz Crimson Star is also known as R. Leporis. I just told you that earlier, because it's also a Mira-type variable star with a 432-day period. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Chaz, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 19. A Messier object, M79, is the only Messier object in Lepus. It's the globular cluster. Walter Scott Houston noted that M79 is visible in binoculars under good dark sky conditions, so it is a definite candidate for the Binocular Messier Club. Even so, Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that M79 is not one of the more brilliant globular clusters and becomes a truly impressive object only in rather large telescopes. Indeed, in his book, The Messier Objects, Stephen James Amira writes that at Oak Ridge Station at Harvard, Massachusetts, he once turned the 16-inch reflector toward M79 and resolved it down to its core. In an 8-inch telescope, M79 looks nice, but it's obvious that there's more aperture needed. But also in an 8-inch telescope, you can just start to resolve the few stars on the outer edge and fringes of the cluster. But it's mostly a round fuzzy glow in the in its core. Slide Master, slide number 20. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, is 2017 is an open cluster near Alpha Leporis. Though originally identified as an open cluster, NGC 2017 is now believed to be a multiple star system. It looks like 4 bright stars with some fainter ones around it. The bright stars are notably for their variation in color. You may be able to see make out its true colors of orange, yellow, white, and a blue-white. Wow, 4 different colors in the 4-star system. Slide Master, slide number 21. IC418. IC stands for Index Catalog. It's also known as the Spirograph Nebula. It's not a very easy to find because it's so small, which makes it look like a star at low powers in a telescope. Despite this, you may be able to see IC418 in a 50-millimeter finder scope, although it just looks like a dot. Walter Scott Houston, in his Deep Sky Wonders column, writes that because of its 9th magnitude central star, this object is readily available in 7x50 binoculars. In an 8-inch scope at low power, it still looks stellar. In other words, like a pinpoint of light. But when you use an 18-millimeter eyepiece, giving it over 100 magnification, it can show a bit of width and the actual star in the field of view was focused to points. In the Hubble Space Telescope, of course that's much better than what we have here on the Earth, photograph of IC-418. The internal structure of IC-418 is reminiscent of the spiral graph drawing, you know, the thing that you got at Christmas a long time ago, giving IC-418 binocular the spirograph nebula. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 22. Now, there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Lepus the Hare. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 23, and that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Lepus the Hare. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information as well. Now, next week we'll take a look at Auriga, the charioteer or the shepherd. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying good night and 73. Back to our net control, Virginia, it's yours.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. Appreciate it. And this is Virginia in D5S net control for Skynet this evening. And next we have space launches of the week, and that is with Tom, KE5ICX. So, Tom, if you want to read those, and then you can go ahead and cover the as well. So, take it away, Tom.
Thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX and for Spaceflight Now. This section, the space launches, is brought to you by spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. You can look this stuff up yourself, including all amateur radio satellites as well, without needing special software for Kepler. So you just plug in your longitude and latitude or your city location, and it will generate the information. Oh, geez. That's the next section. Never mind. Spaceflight Now does provide launch schedule information for all flights of spacecraft, rockets throughout the world. So the first one we're going to do is, you see I got to slip down here, February, well, I don't have very many tonight, I guess. I was looking here, we have coming up on February, wow, I don't have a lot at all. I have one, I have a to be determined, it looks like, and maybe I better check and see. See, we've got New Glenn Bluebird 7 launch. This is from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral. The Blue Origin New Glenn rocket will launch AST Space Mobile's Bluebird 7 satellite into low Earth orbit. This is the second satellite in AST Space Mobile's next generation satellite constellation. It is designed to support space-based cellular broadband for commercial and government customers. This will be the third launch of the New Glenn rocket to date. As of January 22nd, Blue Origin hasn't stated if it intends to attempt a booster recovery on this mission. If you remember, on the first mission, they nailed a return and landing back at the Cape in a really impressive return from orbit, with the exception of the Starship. This is the second largest booster, massive booster, by the way, to return to its point of origin. Let's see here. We have also coming up in March 6th, 7th, Space Launch Systems Artemis 2. We're still waiting on that one. Bill alluded to this one. The Artemis 2 mission will be the first crewed flight of the program, with astronauts Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, and Christina Koch, along with Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, will perform a lunar flyby during a roughly 10-day mission when they see their capsule integrity splash down in the Pacific Ocean. Now I was blabbing on. Once again, I went too early, but the information for heavensabove.com provides information on satellite passes, so I'll just cut to the chase. We do have for the International Space Station, our next one, we actually had a pretty good one earlier this evening, although we couldn't have been able to see it with a minus 3.0 magnitude. But the next really good one will be tomorrow morning. This is at minus 1.7 magnitude at 6:21 in the morning. It'll reach its highest point at 14 degrees at 6:22, and it'll fall to the north at 6:24. Then February 16th, minus 1.5 magnitude. Following morning at 5:36 a.m., it'll reach its highest point at 16 degrees, and it'll fall to the north-northeast at 5:37. The Tiangong Space Station has a few good passes. The next really good one will be February 19th. This will be at 19:37 in the evening out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at a relatively high location at 43 degrees, which will be at 1940, and it'll fall, well, into shadow at that point. So it'll be almost midway in the sky at 1940-22. Then the next one after that will be February 21st, minus 2.2 magnitude at 1916 out of the west-northwest. This one gets almost overhead at 1954, so it's coming out of shadow, and then it will appear almost directly overhead at 82 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-southeast at 26 degrees at 1921. So one of the things that's interesting is the Tiangong Space Station has continued to grow. There are, I believe, 4 large modules that are launched by the heavy lift that they use, and so the reflections coming from the spacecraft are getting very, very bright, so the magnitudes have been getting incrementally brighter over the last year and a half. But it's well worth it. I'll let you know next time when there's an opportunity for both of them going over at the same time. That has happened. I saw the International Space Station go over, and Tiangong 1, the much smaller space station, go over simultaneously. That was pretty cool. That was about a number of years ago now, but with these 2 large and bright objects in the sky, it should be very interesting. I'll keep a lookout and let you know. Back to you, Virginia. This is KE5 ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate all that good information about stuff you can see in the sky. Okay. It's time for any additional check-ins for Skynet as we wrap things up here this evening. If you'd like to get on the list of check-ins for the net, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Alpha India 5, Oscar Lima, Dan, Southwest Fort Worth.
Okay, I got AI5OL, Dan in Fort Worth. Thank you for checking in here at the very end, and we are out of time, believe it or not. So I have a final check-in count of, let me see what we've got here. Let's see, that is, looks like we have 19 hams participating in Skynet this evening, so appreciate all of you for joining us. Okay, and tonight, yeah, we had 19 hams, and thank you all. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night
I'm
at 9
completely
p.m.
operational and all my circuits are functioning
Space
perfectly.
exploration
Afterglow
on this
movie
net. The
net.
sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets, so if you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls or by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to W5FC.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is NB5F. My name is Virginia, and I'll be closing the net at, let's see, what is the exact time? 10:30, right on the tick. And returning the repeater to normal amateur use for a little while until the Afterglow begins. 73, everybody, and enjoy this evening looking at, discovering the universe and looking at stars and stuff. NV5F clear.
Thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX. We'll be starting the Afterglow movie net with Spaceways from 1953 in 5 minutes. Got enough time to take a break, make a microwave popcorn, 4 minutes, no more than that. Rush back to the radio and we'll get started 5 minutes from now. This is KE5ICX. Okay, time to come back to the radio. If you took a mini nap, your nap is over. It's time to talk about tonight's movie, Spaceways, from 1953. I am KD5ICX. My name is Tom, and yes, we did talk about this movie, I guess, a couple of years ago. We've seen so many movies over the last 10 plus years. Some of them have got repeat. A lot of times they're really good movies that get repeated. Sometimes they're accidental, such as this one, which aren't as good, or maybe not good at all, and we sometimes forget that we've seen them until we get into the plot and then realize, oh yeah, it's that one. Not to be confused with the other that one, or the other that one. Well, that one this time is Spaceways. It's directed by Terence Fisher, starring Howard Duff, Eva Bartok, and Alan Wheatley. It was produced by Michael Carraris for Hammer Film Productions, which, by the way, did a lot of British horror films and even some comedies. They were very well known for their low-budget films that people actually liked. It also had a production by Robert L. Lippard, who was also part of several popular films as well. They list some other folks here. Plot is as follows. Engineer Dr. Stephen Mitchell is part of the British space programming that plans to launch an artificial satellite that will permanently orbit the Earth. At a cocktail party, it's announced the program staff and the satellite project has been approved for Defense Council. Mitchell's wife, Vanessa, is not enthusiastic about the new project nor having to live at a high-security base. She sneaks away with Dr. Philip Crenshaw, with whom she is having an affair. Dr. Mitchell leaves the party with Lisa Frank, a mathematician on the project, but does it add up? Who knows? She is in love with him, though. When Mitchell returns home, he is in an argument with Vanessa. He's made aware of her having passionately kissed Crenshaw after he left with him. The satellite rocket soon launches, but does not reach its maximum altitude. Afterwards, it is discovered that Crenshaw and Vanessa have disappeared. Dr. Smith secretly investigates their disappearance and comes to the conclusion that not only were they murdered, but they were murdered by Dr. Mitchell, after which he hid their bodies in the spacecraft's fuel tanks. I don't know how you managed to pry open a fuel tank and stick bodies in it without anybody noticing for that, especially since I think you're going to need a blowtorch. But I'm making comments. Smith approaches Mitchell with an accusation and then telling him about Crenshaw being a spy who had concealed about having a degree from a German university. And we know what happened before that. Mitchell decides to go into space on a second rocket being launched in order to try and prove his innocence. Smith discovers that there was a new team member added prior to the disappearance, and the security guard had died in an accident a week earlier. Soon after, Smith and the police discover that Crenshaw and Vanessa are actually at a seaside cottage and rush to intercept them. Crenshaw had been planning to head to the east instead of going to America, as he previously said. When Vanessa finds out Crenshaw had plans to go to Russia, she refuses to go. Crenshaw tries to persuade her, but she won't agree, saying that she knows too much for him to leave her behind. Crenshaw takes out a gun, pretending to kill her. Smith arrives and tries to stop him, but in a violent scuffle between them, the gun goes off and Vanessa is killed. After the rocket ship launches into space, Mitchell is surprised to see that Lisa is on board. She's previously convinced Toby to let her go on the flight instead of him. Despite the revelation of the bodies of Crenshaw and Vanessa are not on board, Mitchell and Frank attempt to jettison the spacecraft's second stage, resulting in an explosion, causing their spacecraft to go out of control. Mitchell, however, releases a failsafe, saving them from destruction and allowing the spacecraft to return safely to Earth, which we do not see because they ran out of money for film stock. The end. All right, I could go through all of the terrible reviews in here, which are somewhat funny and interesting at times, but I'm not going to do that because we got to get started. So we will begin with the check-ins. After that, we'll talk about the movie's plot, followed by characterization and acting, followed by any of the technical, less than technical, or non-technical aspects of the film that we may have missed on the first 2 rounds. So that'll be kind of an open whatever you want to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started with check-ins. I'll take your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie? It is not a requirement that you have seen the movie. In fact, we'll ask you questions about whether you want to see the movie after hearing our comments on it. So everyone is welcome to check in, regardless of whether you've seen it or not. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Spaceways, from 1953?
This is N5BB. Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw this movie.
This is NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yeah, I saw it.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. Yes, I saw this movie.
Okay, this may be a lean one tonight, but we'll see. Sometimes people wander in sleepy-eyed from traffic nets and all of that. Who's to say? Or watching the Olympics. But here we go. I've got N5BB, Bill in Irving. Yes, he saw the film. He said so, very enthusiastic. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yes, he enthusiastically saw the film. And then NV5F, Virginia, most enthusiastically from Fort Worth, said yes, she saw the film. Additional check-ins, please come now.
ACL, Dave, yes, I saw the movie.
Wow, we've got AC5DL. Dave, he saw the film and he's awake. Fantastic. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I have a suspicion we may get a few more people straggling in here in about 15 minutes, so we'll find out soon enough. So we'll go down the list in order. Everyone claims to have seen the film, maybe more than once. And we'll start with Bill, N5DD. Bill, tell us what you thought about this finally crafted script and story from KE5I6.
Okay, Tom. K5ICX, this is N5BB. By the way, some weird noise obstructed your signal there for a while, and then right at the end, it totally cleared up. So I don't know. Spaceways, a 1953 British film. Well, as I watched this, as you were kind of discussing, I was trying to figure out, have I seen this before? Or have I seen other parts of this film before? I think maybe just I've seen the actors and the props in other places, but I don't remember this particular plot. So I don't think I've seen a film with this plot before, this exact plot. So let's see, I'm supposed to be talking about the plot, I guess. Well, it's not the worst film we've seen as far as the production and plot, but it's kind of weak, the plot, and the reason, well, there's several reasons. One reason is just the whole idea of the bodies being somehow secretly put into a fuel tank seems very, very unlikely. The whole whole idea that the chief design guy was the only guy there during the refueling is also very unlikely. So it was hard to believe that. You know, it was one of those things that just you're trying to imagine how they put the body in the fuel tank. How would he do this? How would he kill them? How would he get him in there? It made no sense. So as opposed to some other films where other more complex things didn't make any sense, to me, this basic premise of this film that it's based on, the idea that he would have killed them, somehow lured them somewhere, killed them with nobody else noticing, and he would have been able to somehow put them into the fuel tank, just was impossible, I think. And it turns out that's not what happened anyway. The other things that were so implausible were sneaking, well, number one, at the last moment, changing a number of people flying on the craft from 1 to 2 at the last moment, which seemed very implausible, and then hiding a woman in there when the main pilot didn't even realize it was her. That was also very implausible. So there were just too many implausible things. They weren't like supernatural implausible. They were just odd writing. How in the world would that happen? It just would not happen in a real world. Let's see, what else about this movie? This is N5BB, and this is the Afterglow net, which I'm participating in. Let's see. It had a lot of the plot had a lot of the similarities of other British films. There seemed to be a big concern over security, and just nearly all these films have seemed from Great Britain in the 50s, late 30s, especially the early to mid 50s, and so maybe even to the 60s. So this focus on the guards and the later discovery that one of the guards had been bribed, and that's how the bad guys got out. And in general, you know, even though there's this interest in security in the movies, if you know anything about real security on military and other facilities, it's much more serious than these movies, you know, make it out to be. And there's usually layers of things and cameras and all kinds of things, even back in the 50s. And I just don't think that would have happened that way. So that's my other problem with the plot, was that security aspect of it. The basic also plot line of the broken down marriage and the illicit affair and everything, the two illicit affairs were also a bit over the top. But that's the way a lot of these movies were back then. They had these rather serious, weird double love affair things. And this one had two of them, essentially. Let's see, what else can I say about the plot? Got lots more to say about other things, but I think that's all I have to say about the plot at this time. N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And yeah, you said what you saw, I think was, I know some of the special effects came from Rocket Ship XM. I read that somewhere. And maybe the interior, I don't know. Yeah, the used to resurrect sets and special effects and stock footage to get us through the film, especially with a low budget like this. Okay, next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony is an authority on ugly English vans and English movies, or ugly English movies with ugly English vans. But I'm sure he has something to say about tonight's movie. NT5TM, your thoughts on plot?
Yes, I really hated that delivery van they were driving. We've seen vans like that in other movies. Well, it was an ugly English plot. I found it very hard to follow after the accusation that dead bodies had been hidden in a propellant tank because, kind of like with Bill, it sounded so ridiculous to me I found myself unable to even pretend to care, and I spent time chatting with you guys on Facebook and helping Aaron in the kitchen. It was not a very engaging plot for me. I found it generally sort of ridiculous. The crowning moment of ridiculousness was when they U-turned the rocket ship at the end there with its giant iron steering wheel. That was just a horrible plot point. But fortunately they did run out of film there. So yeah, not only are we a little light on check-ins, but I don't have a lot to say other than that it was a terrible English plot. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Well, yeah, I guess so. There was a lot of talking, not a lot of action, that's for sure. All right, Virginia, ND5F. She gave the most enthusiastic and excited response about saying, yes, I saw this film. Tell us why you're so excited, Virginia, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I'm actually sitting here trying not to fall asleep. This movie, I remember us seeing it. Someone else noticed that it was a repeat. I think you got tricked by that newfangled colorization they did to it. Because the last time we watched it, it was black and white. So, the plot, it had a lot of arguing and talking and smoking, lots of smoking in this. It was kind of funny to me that a movie called Spaceways, they don't even make it in space. They start to make it into space and then they turn around and come back. And I vaguely remember that from the last time we saw it. I remember the woman switching places with the guy, and I remember the roomy interior of the rocket ship that was or the capsule, I guess, that was supposed to be on a V2 rocket. So, not sure how that worked. I'm with everybody else. I'm not sure how you would get dead bodies into a propellant tank. I'm guessing they pump fuel into those propellant tanks through skinny little pipes. So that would be kind of gruesome. Yeah, it almost seems like space was like a framing device for what was supposed to be a murder mystery, romance, love triangle, something. It was almost like they had this script that was something else, and they were like, hey, space is cool, it's getting to be trendy and hip, all the kids are digging the idea of space, let's make it a movie about space. But it just seemed like a bunch of boring people getting in fights and trying to kill each other. So space, there was a lot of talk about space. They had a big screen that looked it literally looked like they had figured out a way to somehow magnify and project a radar tube with probably a World War II era radar tube with that sweeping, radar thingy spinning around. I remember that from the last time we saw this, And I did remember the roomy interior of the rocket ship and how huge it was, and the ridiculous spacesuits they were wearing, and as Tony said, the big iron steering wheel that they turned the ship around with. So, yeah, the plot was boring and not very spacey. It didn't really have a lot. Space was just kind of, you could fill in the blank with any other, I guess, endeavor or corporate thing or new technology or old technology. So, yeah, I didn't think the plot was very dependent on space, and that is funny because the movie was called Spaceways, which I guess implies that it would make me think there was a whole network of people traveling around in space on, like, space highways or something. So, yeah, plot was boring, and it wasn't any better the second time around. In fact, this time around I paid less attention to it than I did last time. Back to net in V5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Yeah, I have some things to say about all of that coming up. I'm going to defer. Hey, AC5DL, welcome to the late net again. You were chatting away last night when we were watching the film together separately. What are your thoughts on the plot for our fine film, Spaceways from 1953?
85 ICX, AC5DL. Well, first of all, I need to say that Virginia is stealing my line for sleep, so hopefully I won't be falling asleep here. But anyhow, plot of this wonderful movie. I mean, the Afterglow movie net is where I come to see good movies, and that's what I was expecting last night when we did a preview of this. And, this is Great Britain's first sci-fi movie, and I came into this expecting something really spectacular, and what do we get? We get a combination of a murder mystery movie and a sci-fi movie. I mean, I was hoping to see a giant mantis or something like that, or creative, but what we got was this really weird, long, wordy movie with lots of people in suits instead of lab coats and stuff like that, and it just seemed to drag on in a lot of places. I just didn't really know quite what to expect, and then, like everyone has said, that they hire a chief inspector to come out and investigate what happened with these two people that are missing, so they bring in Dr. Clouseau, and he goes around and comes up with this preposterous idea of two people put in a fuel tank, which, of course, is very strange. Nothing like maybe we should really investigate whether these people left town or something like that. But anyhow, I don't know, other than some other stuff I might add later on, I thought the plot was pretty weak in general, and, just not what I would expect. I mean, I normally like to come in here and say something like, where else could you find a movie that has these great elements in it? But this one I just was left speechless. I'm certainly hoping that our next movie has some better monsters or something in it. But anyhow, back to net. AC5DL.
It's obvious from your enthusiastic response there that you love the film. Okay, well, with Dave, we're at the bottom of the list. Before I say anything, let's see if there are others out there which like to join us this evening. Tonight's movie, Spaceways, the Hammer 1953 British extravagandist extravaganza, science fiction film, murder, mystery thing. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, name, and did you see the film?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this film.
Okay, we picked up another regular, KB9SOK. Sean, your comments on plot, please.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I wish I had a lot to add, but I don't. As everybody's already pointed out, the ridiculous plot about stuffing these people into the fuel tanks makes, zero sense. You know, first of all, how would you even do that? And two, even if you could, wouldn't that contaminate the fuel and the rocket wouldn't have worked? And then on top of all that, this rocket was the same design as the final rocket, so it had a nose cone. Why didn't they then put him, if he's really going to stuff bodies, why didn't he put him in the nose cone? Why would he stuff him in the fuel tank? I mean, it was just, clearly, they were just looking for a plot point. They had to have some reason to blame him for their deaths. I think they could have been a little more creative about it. As Virginia already brought up, which is the exact same thing I was thinking, that really this was just a murder mystery disguising as a space movie, just to give that different twist and to get people into the theater. It really was, because if it really was about space, it would have been it should have had a much more clever twist of maybe how this guy did something with those people, but it wouldn't have been stuffing them into the fuel tank. So yeah, really, this was the biggest problem of the movie. It just totally takes you out of it as being just completely ridiculous. And it was just, on top of that, it was a very weak murder mystery. You know, I remember watching it the first time thinking it was pretty obvious. You knew the guy didn't do it, and you knew the guy probably just slipped out. You know, after all, he was a spy. You know. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing was just, not even a good murder mystery. So yeah, this movie was just kind of dull, and then of course, the end was ridiculous too. You know, just magically turning the rock around with just a valve. But so yeah, no, this wasn't one of the better British space movies. Because the plot was so simple, that was the end of the plot, is really all about the love affairs at the end of the day. There wasn't much else to it. So anyway, that's all I got. Sorry, that's all I got on anything good. Back to net. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I agree with you. I gotta say that, yes. First off, it's British, right? So we know it's going to be long and boring and chock full of exposition, but it's not even good British movie. You automatically give it an extra point or two because it's British. It's got to be good. It's not like American trash, or is it? As it turns out, it is pretty bad. But one of the things to keep in mind, first off, and I read this here, that it was a radio play, which is why it was chock full of exposition, because that's what radio plays are, exposition. So they did that. It didn't seem like they did much editing or added action. They just read the script, which is from the radio play. But one of the things about radio plays back then was that murder mysteries were all the rage, both here and in Europe or in England. And so it was not unusual for authors to peddle their writing, their stories, to various regularly running series, So you have a murder and a detective and the story like with the Saint or something like that, and then they would take it to someplace else, and he just changed the names of the principals in it and used the same exact story, in fact, the same exact script. I don't know what the copyright requirements were then, but I think that the authors were able to make money off the same script more than once, and most people didn't pay that much attention to it. So I think that might have had something to do with it. I don't know what the propellant tanks were supposed to be in some other story, maybe a well, maybe dumped off the edge of a cliff somewhere and never to be seen again. That seems like the potential script element in a regular story, but I agree with comments that let's just go ahead and do space, which I think Bill mentioned. Let's put a space bent on it because it's 1953. It's becoming the rage in the United States. It was the beginning of the space stuff then. So we had all of that. Well, maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Let's see. I did grab that camera. XM. What else was I going to say? Oh, the radar. I was going to talk about the radar. That's actually a technical aspect, but they did that same thing in a Star Trek episode with their own version of the radar. I think that's a pretty simple special effect. All they did was put a flashlight with a high beam or a high beam light with a lens on it behind a translucent screen. They had some printing painted on the front with, your radar stuff, and then they just spun the thing around with a motor or something. I think it's a pretty low-tech special effect that looks better than it probably deserved to. I think that's what that was all about. Okay, well, let's see. We can go ahead and go on to the next section here, which is just simply talking about the acting. This may be a really quick one, too, since there wasn't much in the way of acting going on. Since we had Howard Duffin, we recognized from watching the American film. So we'll go ahead and start at the top with Bill again and 5TV's acting and characterization. What do you think from KE5I6?
Very good, Tom. KE5I6 in the group N5BB. Again, your signal got really noisy. Sounds like some kind of... what it really sounds like is that there's a big fan behind you and a whole bunch of things like paper being blown by the fan. So it sounds like you're outside an airport and there's a prop airplane is blowing wind all around you or something. It's really weird. But I understood you. Anyway, okay. So we have acting and related things. We have Howard Duff as Dr. Stephen Mitchell. I've seen Howard Duff in a number of films and TV shows and things from the 50s and 60s into the 70s. And in this film, well, it's kind of interesting. He has this look. If you just look at him, just look at a picture of him, he has this kind of weird eyebrows and this weird face. He looks a little bit lost. Just looking at it, he always looks like he's lost, confused, doesn't exactly know what he's doing. That's just the look of his face, the way he comes over, which is kind of weird. He doesn't look totally incompetent, but he really doesn't look confident either. He's kind of in between. It's kind of weird. And not convinced in him as being a love interest exactly, because he appears so bland. He's kind of Mr. Bland. And he doesn't really look and act like he's that technically competent, but everybody else treats him like he is. So I think the choice of Howard Duff with this, for this actor was kind of weird. But he's been in a lot of these other kind of movies, and he kind of muddles through them. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird choice. Eva Bartok, Dr. Lisa Frank, she at least had some emotion. She acted like she really cared. Howard Duff looks always like he doesn't care about what's going on. He kind of looks like he's surprised about what's going on around him. Eva Bartok, as Dr. Lisa Frank, she really cared. She poured some emotion into it. Of course, like a lot of these films from this area, the women become really emotional. And so, yeah, she got really emotional and attached to him. But that was the way it was written, I'm sure. So that's what she did. So I thought she did a better job at her acting. Dr. Smith, Alan Wheatley, that came in. Really odd. It's like, why would they put up with that guy? He was ticking off everybody. He didn't really look like a secret agent kind of security guy to me. But that's just me. Vanessa Mitchell, which is Cecile Chevreau, was the actress. And then Dr. Crenshaw, Andrew Osborne, the bad couple that he shoots her at the very end of the movie. They were kind of over the top, melodramatic. I don't know. They didn't have a lot of acting to do, and I guess they did it okay. The other people in there, the professor, the general, they were just the standard fixtures in there, doing their thing. Nothing very interesting there. Ho, ho, ho. I'm going to fall asleep looking at them. So I don't know. Nobody stood out to me in this except maybe Eva Bartok as Dr. Lisa Frank. She kind of poured her heart into that. But a bit over the top, but maybe it was written that way. As far as the directing and everything, I don't know. I think, from my point of view, the directing was maybe a little bit better than the acting, and the acting was a lot better than the stupid plot. And somewhere down below that, in the basement, is the production design, special effects. I think that's all for acting and directing. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I don't know what to say, but I'll wait and we'll see what others have to say. So I know what to say. Tony, NT5TM, you're up. What do you have to say about acting and characterization for Spaceways from 1953 from KE5, ICX?
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I really wonder if we don't have some sort of problem with All-Star. I don't know how to create an All-Star account, but maybe I'll figure out how to do that so I can test it out myself. I found the characters very, very, very difficult to remember, which I think is a terrible sign. I could remember the names of even minor things, say The Fifth Element, after one watching. Aziz, Blight. But this movie, no. Just a bunch of orange people in suits. Some of them wore purple hats, which is really funny. I didn't think the British military ever had purple hats, but there you go. I think that my favorite character was probably, I think she was the mathematician. Unlike Bill, I can't remember the names. But she had a nice haircut. That kind of foreshadowed future hairstyles that were just coming into vogue then. I really liked her haircut. But other than that, forgettable. What was their name? Did they have names? Or they just referred to as like stuffed shirt number 7? Yeah, just completely forgettable. NV5TF.
Oh my, yeah, I don't disagree. I see a cast of like 10 people here, most of which I can't remember. None of them I can remember. All right, next up is Virginia NV5F. Save us. Tell us about characterization. I know you took some time out and actually thought about the characters, I hope. Didn't you? Or did you? From KE5, ACX.
It's hard to think about characters that are all sort of the same and hard to tell apart. And there was the one lady who looked like a Vulcan because she had that fashion-forward haircut that Tony liked so much. I know he decided she looked like she was from Star Trek Enterprise. And then we started talking about Vulcans, so that was fun. Yeah, nothing really outstanding here. Nothing. The acting was fine. It was of its time. But yeah, nothing real striking here in the characters. Nobody that you really necessarily looking for. I don't know. The plot was so not spacey that it was hard to pay attention to for me. So I think I paid more attention on the first time we saw this. I think I was mostly distracted by the computer colorization process that makes everybody the same skin tone. Deep shadows that should be like cooler tones always come out sort of orange. And so does any kind of bright highlight. Everything looks like it's almost on fire, like everything's about to self-combust. And all the backgrounds of any of these movies are always kind of greenish gray. So, yeah, very weird color choices by whatever computer colorized this. So it made the characters look so weird that it was distracting, and it was hard to tell anybody apart because people's hair was all the same flat color of brown with zero variations of any kind. So, yeah, that's my report on characters. Back to net, NV5F.
Yeah, I think Tony had a thing for the Topol person, not the actor, but the actress, Vulcan person. Okay. Next up is Dave. Dave, AC5DL. Dave, your thoughts on characterization and acting in a fine film?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, regarding acting, I've heard a lot of the other people pretty much take a lot of the words out of my mouth on this one, but for Howard Duff as Dr. Stephen Mitchell, I think, if this being a British movie, why didn't they decide to put Michael Rennie in there, and have Gordon come out in this, it would have kind of a British theme to it in that way, a much better actor for this. And, let's see, Eva Bartok, that was the first thing I thought when I saw her haircut is, wow, T'Pol is in this, hey, this ought to be good. But she didn't fit the character of a Vulcan because even though she was the mathematician, she was the one that added the emotional aspect to the movie and all that. So she didn't quite fit the plot of the Vulcan, but she sure looked like her. And then we come to Dr. Smith, and this is not the Dr. Smith from Lost in Space by any means. Alan Wheatley, he was the weird one in the bunch. And the one thing that I thought that was funny about him was he kept pulling out this little snuff box. And I haven't seen people using snuff boxes in movies in years. And he would go around occasionally and want to offer other people some of his snuff, you know, and I thought that was kind of weird. But then the other part was this preposterous idea he came up with, what happened to these two missing people, you know, which was just totally absurd, you know. Let's not do anything like check around in the city or whatever, you know, let's immediately jump to this conclusion that because the weight of the aircraft was different from Dr. Frank's calculations, that obviously these two people must be in the tank. So that's where all the missing weight is, you know. That was just way too strange for me. But I don't know. That's, let's see. And of course, Vanessa Mitchell, the wife of Dr. Mitchell, she was always upset about something. So she was I guess the Karen in the movie, if you would call her that. But I don't know. The other characters, I don't have a whole lot to add about them. I guess Professor Kepler, he was the master of ceremonies that added all the formality to everything. But I guess that's about it. So back to you. AC5DL, back to Ned.
Okay, very good. I'm beginning to sense a pattern here. The acting and actors were inconsequential to the film. In other words, we really didn't need any actors for this film. It didn't really help much. I think maybe a test pattern would have actually elevated the entire film in a single 1,000 hertz tone. I don't know, whatever it might be. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization and acting?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, everybody's pretty well said it. These characters were pretty tall. Yeah. You know, it had been for some of you, remind me of a few of their names. I couldn't even remember their names, which is never a good sign in a TV series or a movie, or when you really the names don't stick. And, yeah, and I think I do agree that our main protagonist, Howard, I think his name was, his real name, yeah, wasn't particularly good in this role. Didn't seem to really fit the part at all. I think he was a pretty big miss in casting. I do agree the Vulcan math scientist was probably the most interesting and probably one of the most effort into the acting, and the rest were just kind of pretty bland and just not that interesting, unfortunately. So, yeah, and not a lot to say on that. As the rest of you talkers tried to come up with something worth saying, but yeah, these were all pretty dull characters, and just, yeah, acting wasn't great, but what else can you say? So I won't drag it out any longer. Back to that, KB9SOK.
I named Did You See tonight's movie Spaceways from 1953. Don't worry, you can check in and say, no, I did not see Spaceways, and I had no intention of watching the film. You may even get some extra credit for that. So if you're out there and you'd like to check in, please come in. hearing could be a thin evening. I think the Olympics has something to do with that, plus our stellar choice in movies, so I've got a real surprise for you for next week. But at any rate, here we go. I don't have a lot to say. There is one character I like. It was Dr. Toby Andrews. You people heard me talk about him last night, some of you. Toby was great. We couldn't afford lab coats. Nobody had lab coats. You know, the big white coats with the huge pockets that you stick your stethoscope in, or your chemistry test tubes, or, you know, small pens you could put in these big pockets. Well, Toby took things to heart, and even though he didn't have a white jacket, you know, he was wearing, I think, a smoking jacket or some such thing, and he put his hands in those front pockets on that. So he was looking for the white coat, but improvised by using a standard one. I think he had an ascot or something. He was wearing an ascot through the whole thing, which is kind of weird in and of itself. But Toby was the guy. He was there. He was the cool kid. Everybody else was walking around smoking their lungs out. He was the one guy walking around and trying to do something. Not with his hands, not actually, you know, doing something helpful, but, you know, he put his hands in his pockets, even took his jacket off a couple of times. I think he put his hands in his trouser pockets at some point. I don't know. But Toby seemed to know what was going on that others did not. Everyone else, forgettable. In fact, I've already forgotten them. Even Howard Duff is easy to forget, even though he had a long career. Okay, let's see. What else was I going to say? I don't think anything. I don't really have anything. I truly am with you all. I was kind of bored during this film. I think I may have fallen asleep for a little bit, but I did manage to get to the very end before I headed to bed and said goodnight to all of you. So that's something to be said, even though it was a short film. At least I wasn't looking at the clock, hoping this film would end eventually. So it wasn't that terrible, but it wasn't that good either. Okay. Last round. We've got plenty of time here. This one's anything goes, whatever you want to talk about this film, or any other for that matter. This could be the technical aspects of the film, which was originally for, or something we missed on the first two rounds, although I can't imagine what that might be. We'll start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, what do you got?
Well, this is N5BB. Special effects, etc. Oh my. And just the general production values. Well, as I've already mentioned, the rocket itself was stolen from another film. The takeoffs were filmed from other things. On the early part, I think there were some things that were filmed at White Sands Missile Range they reused, and some of the other ones I think were made up. They were for the XM, the previous movie, and they just reused that special effects footage. And the quality of the spacecraft, the external shots were horrible. It didn't look very realistic. It didn't even. It's kind of modeled. It didn't look good at all. Let's put it that way. The interior shots were just, well, there were not very many. They were just the control room area and of the spacecraft, and it was, as you mentioned, huge. And the controls made absolutely no sense. The thing that Tony was talking about, the knob on the wall, and evidently he damaged or broke his arm or something, so he was trying to do it with his right hand only. And did you notice the sign? It says above that rotary wheel, it said for emergency use only. For emergency use only. Isn't that kind of a weird thing to name something in a spacecraft? For emergency use only. And what did it do? I don't know. It changed the angle of the spacecraft. The controls they had were mechanical, like you were moving everything directly with your hands, with levers or something. So their idea of how you control something was a whole bunch of levers. Just put a whole bunch of levers on there and just start pulling them in some order to make it do something. You notice they had no real seats. They didn't even have a regular aircraft seat, much less something laying on their back to launch into space. And what happens when they got in some rough situation there where they were just thrown all over the place? So that made no sense. The spacesuits. Wasn't that the weirdest thing in the world? Something that looks like maybe a deep sea diver's helmet or something. That was really goofy. And did you notice when they were getting it ready, they were twirling with something near the neck, and it wasn't obvious what it was. It was just something they were toying with, like it was doing something. I don't know what they were doing. The other really weird thing was, did you notice the shots of the pilot with what looks like asbestos gloves holding on to the handles? So not only is it controlled by these handles, but they must get red hot because he's using these gloves, kind of asbestos or some other kind of high temperature gloves to run them, to pull them. That was goofy. What else? What can I say? The whole team that designed and built the rocket was like 5 people. Did you notice? The engineering team was like 2, maybe. Medical team was 1. The management team was like 1. Man, you could build a rocket for $1,000 if that's how few people it took. Let's see. I think that's about all. It's not a silly, slapstick, stupid dialogue movie. So it's not one of those movies that's just that you laugh at, but you just don't like it. It's like, ugh. It's not like you're throwing up. It's just like you're not interested. It's like, why did I watch this? I think that's it. Inside BB. Why did I watch this?
Bill, it's because it was in color this time. It made the movie much more interesting. Okay, next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your final comments, technical or otherwise, from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you. I'm honestly more awake for this net than I was for the movie. I'm glad Bill hit on the ridiculous spacesuits and the strange gloves for touching the controls. I just have my broken record comment of I'm always perplexed by these giant, heavy, riveted cast iron rocket ships. You know, most of these people had seen airplanes. World War I, World War II, maybe they'd flown in an airplane. They knew that lightweight was important, and aircraft tend to be strong and light rather than look like rust bucket cargo ships. But they built their rockets like rust bucket cargo ships anyway. So, yeah, production design on these early space movies is pretty bad. NT5TM.
Well, yeah, you need the heavy spacecraft for all the big, bulky vacuum tubes and everything that run, and the heavy switches you need to turn them on. Getting some weird feedback. That may be what Bill was talking about. So I released my push to talk, and then it disappears. I do get some, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. Okay. Let's see here. Next up is Virginia and D5FC. Open mic, whatever you want to talk about from KE5 ICX.
Okay, well, the music was unrememberable and the special effects were not very special, and I still marvel, like Tony said, about the big, clunky, heavy, giant, roomy, heavy-duty capsule or crew compartment that was supposed to somehow be lifted by a V2 rocket. That's hilarious. What else? You know, I think Hammer was the company that made those Quartermass movies. Maybe we should just watch more of those. I think there's a couple more of those we haven't seen. And let's see, what else? Oh, I think maybe we should have a round where each person tries to accurately describe the sounds that mess up your transmission sometimes. And they're not always the same. So that would be kind of interesting, too. That's it for me. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. I think, I'm not entirely sure, I believe what's happening is that when I'm transmitting, the All-Star Link sees that connection as a radio, number one, number two, as a server. So when it connects and when it transmits, it also puts out an ID, which is my call sign, which you probably don't hear, but I can hear it sort of as feedback from another device here, a regular audio amplifier. I hear it in the background. It's not attached to the radio, but it definitely is being transmitted or fed back somehow. That's when I know that something goofy is going on. Another time is when it comes on, it is continuous, and I'll hear it then. And it's a different sound. It's not Morse code. It's not CW like the first one I hear. But if I release the push to talk and then reconnect, it will work, and it'll work okay. Also, it puts out the time, but it's always at the top of the hour, so that's only once per hour that I'm aware of. Maybe it does it more frequently, and that may be yet another version, and that's a voice thing that's probably getting muxed in as well. So, at any rate, that's what I got on it. That's what I think I know about. I haven't heard the other end. I guess I can go back and listen to the YouTube and see if I can figure it out from there. I don't know. Okay, next up is Dave, AC5DL. Dave, your chance to talk about Mantis or this movie from KE5 ICX.
Okay, Tom, coming up to last comments, special effects and stuff like that. I mean, first, the ridiculous look of the rocket. You know, when I was back at junior high, I used to do Estes rockets, and one of them I made was the Mars Snooper, and it looked a whole lot like the rocket in this movie, you know, with these ridiculous-looking fins on the outside and stuff like that. What else about it? Some of the rocket controls, you know, being a former Air Force guy, you know, some of the rocket controls they had in this almost looked like the throttle controls on a B-52. They actually looked like they were out of an aircraft, and they had a whole bunch of them all together, and I was just scratching my head trying to figure out what those could all be for. And, you know, the spacesuits, those were really funny looking to me, especially the helmets, because they had this little bitty window that you looked out, and, You know, when I make movie posters, those are some of the hardest ones when you want to have to try to fit a face into this little window. But anyhow, it made me wonder how impractical this must be for those guys to have to look through these tiny little windows. It reminded me of this episode I saw in the Beverly Hillbillies where Jethro Bodine went to see a 007 movie, and he came back and was trying to imitate 007, and one thing he did was he put a big wash basin over his head to protect himself from everything, but he couldn't see out of it. And that was kind of what was ridiculous to me about the helmets. Let's see, what else? Gosh, I don't know other than at the time they were struggling with a lot of things to make it look futuristic, and the radar screen, you know, they had this rotating, it looked like a three-spoke thing, kind of like what you'd see on a Mercedes, you know, spaced about that far apart, and it was going around, but it wasn't centered in the middle of the screen, so that bugged me anyway. It wasn't real realistic looking, but I guess they did as well as they could with what budget they had. But anyhow, I guess that's about all I had to add about special effects. So AC5DL, back to net.
All right, thank you, Dave. And last but certainly not least, or I think will be, is KB9SOK. That's Sean, Albert Fort Worth. Sean, your final comments. Yeah.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, the really special effects we had was obviously the rocket. Everybody's made plenty of comments about all the things that are wrong. The sad part is I'm pretty sure that cockpit we've actually seen in another movie, so I'm guessing they borrowed it because I don't think they had a budget. But once again, yeah, obviously it was bad. Yeah, the radar screen looked absolutely horrendous. But the biggest thing I'm disappointed with is every science fiction movie from the 50s and 60s has to have at least one scene with an oscilloscope. We didn't get one. Man, that's such a cheap fact. So anyway, very disappointed in that part. Yeah, music was nothing special. Overall, neither was this movie. Last night's conversation during the movie was way more entertaining than the movie, and sometimes it is. It's the same as our conversation tonight. So, as always, looking forward to the next one. That's all I got for this week. Back to net. KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And for anybody who's lurking out there and listening, we do meet at 8 o'clock on Friday night virtually, and we start up the movie at 8 o'clock, and we talk about it on the Afterglow game, 2 words, Afterglow and game, message group on Facebook, and we go back and forth and talk about the film, sort of MS3K style, back and forth about what we're seeing on the screen, and it's actually in some cases more interesting than the movie. That was the case last night, in case you were wondering. So it's Afterglow movie. Just find it, and you can be a part of the conversation. I think it should be an open group. My thoughts on the film, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This thing, the only good news is it wasn't too long. Probably could have been shorter because the plot was such as it was. It plodded along, but it wasn't excessive. It got through the entire movie, more or less. I've always, when the script is particularly bad or the pacing is particularly horrible, there are times when I'm looking at my watch hoping this movie would end sooner more than later. This one wasn't too bad. I got through it okay. But in any case, forgettable in so many ways. The spaceship was fun. I kind of liked it. It was like, obviously, and I agree, it came from elsewhere. This movie had was a low budget film, and they did rent a spaceship or something to get that wherever it came from. I think it could have been a rocket ship XM hand me down or rental or something like that. So there you have it. All right. Well, I've got something for you folks. I was looking for something that might be interesting. This may be even more than interesting. Next week's movie is a comedy. It came out in 2013, I believe it was, 2013. It's called, ready for this, Destination Planet Negro. Starts in 1939, comes to contemporary times. I was reading some of the review parts here, and it's not bad. It got some fairly good reviews. You can imagine what the topic may be, but it doesn't look too bad. So that's going to be next week's movie. I'll double check and make sure that everything is in place. I will send out the note for the links, as I always do, and for the lurkers out there, if you want to be added to the list, send me an email at Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX@yahoo.com. I'll give you the link to the movie, and you'll get a link to the movie every week, whatever it may be. So that's it. That's next week's movie, 2013, I guess. Destination Planet Negro. It says mixes social satire and campy laughs. That's what one of the reviews says from Medium Magazine. So that's it. Till next time, this is KE5ICX. So go ahead and clear out. I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired. We'll see you all next time. Same bat time, same bat station. KE5ICX. Now clear.